we'll start recording.
Cool.
Cool. So we are so honored that you are here. And so I just want to take a moment to acknowledge that each and every one of you, including us, it's been a feat to get here, especially those that are coming in to the webinar itself. Welcome. Hello. If you're joining us on the replay, we had some interesting,
welcome.
Yeah, also welcome. And also it's been a little bit. So whether you're here live or watching the replay, I just want us to take a moment to pause. If you're sitting, notice the chair, feel your body. Cam's going to be doing some deep breaths, which is fabulous. And you can do that if you'd like, or just at least make a big sigh motion. No one else can see you, so you can do it in safety. If you're in a busy place, just have that feeling needs to be vocal. So you can also do it quietly. You don't have to put much force in it.
So we are talking about money today, which is why this part of the process of just kind of sitting into your body is so important, because money is triggering for entrepreneurs, especially if you're religiously raised or are new to being a Christian, or even if you have no religious background at all, money is usually triggering.
Yeah.
So is there anything more you want to lead into with that, or do you feel we're good?
No, because we have a moment where we ask everyone else.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So in the chat, let us know, what is it you want to get out of this experience over the next hour-ish? Why did you sign up? Why are you here? What do you want to get out of this? And we have all kinds of things that we're going to be sharing with you. When we came up with this idea for the Make a Lot of Money Masterclass, it was really vague. We're like, okay, this is when people join the Facebook group, there's these 3 questions. What's a personal challenge? What's a business challenge? Would you like us to email you? Almost everybody says something about money, mindset, or lead generation and getting clients. So it was all right, well, obviously you got to talk about this some more. So in the chat, let us know, what are you here to experience? What's your intention for the next 60 minutes or however long this ends up being?
Because we are here to serve you. Obviously, we have our own, what we are planning on covering, but we want to make sure that we aren't just kind of giving you something that isn't going to be valuable for yourself. So if you could, each one of you that are live in the chat, let us know, and we will be able to cater it a little bit better for those that are live, so that it can be a little bit more valuable for those that have been here live. So reminder of the question. So when you think of money in relation to yourself, what comes up? Is there a phrase? Is there a feeling? Is there absolutely nothing at all? When you think of money, kind of what is it? Probably should have said this before. Each and every one of you have such an incredibly unique perspective. So there is no judgment whatsoever.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Yep.
So if you are able to, please let us know in the chat.
I mean, the key marketing pieces as a coach to making more money. I have a feeling I'm overcomplicating it. LOL.
Oh man, I definitely overcomplicate things.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh,
We're the
for
experts
sure.
on that.
Yeah. Thank you, Jordan. That is, we'll for sure talk about that.
Super juicy.
Well, technically we are talking about a piece of that, so we'll just add it in.
Yeah.
Okay. So as you guys are kind of thinking and coming in and thinking about money and what you would really like to get out of today, We are going to jump in, but know that the chat is up and we are monitoring that.
We're all about the chat.
Yes. So, and Charles said, I don't know how to untangle the lies of what I'm believing around God, money, and running a porn recovery business. I feel like a complete mess with all of this. Yes, bring yourself in your mess.
Bring the mess.
Just
all of that.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah. Untangling lies is
That
we're
is,
just about to go into that. Actually, that's going to be a big piece.
yeah.
Yeah, here we go. All right, Jordan. Money mindset coach.
Yes.
Need to do the work on yourself. We give the medicine that we crave for ourselves, and oftentimes the areas that we need the most help in are the areas we're experts in. Because it's that thing where we just need that slight different perspective for us to be able to click into place something that we already know, but then can implement for ourselves and melt through the resistance that kind of shows up for us. So
yeah. And with that also means that if you're like, oh my gosh, of course, that is very common.
Yeah. Because
you can't read the label when you are in the bottle.
Can't read it.
Yeah. You can read some of it, to be fair, but you can't read all of it. And so give yourself grace as these.
Yeah. Do you want to stand? How are you feeling with our energy?
I'm feeling good.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, grounded.
We'll stand at some point. So what we want to kind of move into is we'll kind of share a little bit of the things that kind of have led us on our journey around money and growing a business. Some of you guys know a little bit about our stories, but really briefly, and I'm sure we'll kind of shape this up as we go through this process. But Carla and I have been working together in business, depending on when you define our start date, anywhere from a year to forever. We've been married for 10 years, and in some ways our business partnership has gone back that long.
Well, we've been doing this since
we've been doing this since 2017. Like there's a whole history around this, and we've helped our clients make over $15 million in new revenue from telling stories and connecting it to the resonance of your being. And so like our company is rebranding to Resonance and Revenue, which is all about the resonance of really reaching into the heart of somebody and helping them understand that there's a new possibility. That's what resonance is. And revenue is returning that energy in a way that puts money in your bank account. We're going to talk about that whole concept, but we wanted to lead off with the context for this is that we're kind of talking to people who have been raised in the church, or maybe not raised in the church, but like
organized religion
or experience with organized religion,
yeah.
or didn't grow up in the church and have recently become a Christian. I found that can actually be more jarring when you're coming into a system where you're like, wait, the Jesus that I met and what I'm experiencing, there's this kind of mismatch. I'm not sure what to do with this. But we're all kind of navigating through, as Charles said, untangling a lot of the lies that we tend to absorb culturally and church culturally. Wow, that's a mouthful.
That is totally a mouthful.
So if you are an entrepreneur and you've even remotely been touched by Christian culture, then you probably know about some of these. You want to read off our list, or at least the first one?
Yeah. So what I want to invite you into is if you have a pen and notepad or a piece of paper or however you like to process. Definitely pen and paper for Cam.
Mm-hmm.
As I read through some of this, kind of think through and which ones do you kind of like resonate with? Which ones are not even it, and which ones are like, oh. So we're going to invite you.
That's touching something.
Yeah, it's touching something.
Yeah.
So we say Christian money beliefs because we have seen this be very common in Christian circles.
Yep.
But as for me, I work with so many different people that I have also seen this kind of ripple through into culture throughout the world.
Even if you didn't grow up in a religious household or are not currently identifying as like being in the Christian subculture or whatever it is, these ideas tend to spread even if you weren't directly influenced by it. It's in our cultural waters, especially in the westernized world, America, Canada, the UK, Australia, etc. Obviously differences there, but because a lot of these come from scripture verses that have been kind of extrapolated into something else.
Yeah. So some of these money beliefs that is influenced by what we were just talking about is money is the root of all evil is one of them.
Put in the chat if you are familiar with that phrase, money is the root of all evil, or money is a root of all kinds of evil, any variation of that. And how has that shown up for you? Has that shown up on sales calls? Has that shown up in your marketing? Has that phrase echoed through your mind when you think about your vision and wanting more money? Tell us, where has that idea come through? Because there's a lot of nuance that we could go into around unpacking the context, but that's not really the point of today's class. Just know that there are spiritual principles that are being imparted, and it does not come into conflict with the desires of what God has given you. There's nuance here, which is kind of the whole point of what we're doing here. Yeah. The OG version, money is the root of all evil. People told me I'm the reason that Jesus flipped tables in the temple for charging for porn recovery. Oh man. Yeah. We might want to talk about the Jesus and temple flipping thing at some point, because it's not about money, by the way.
Yeah, that whole
It's not about money at all.
Bible story.
Yeah, we might spend some time on like some Bible stuff if you guys are like open for that and wanting that.
No,
we'll
it's podcast.
Or it's a podcast.
Yeah, podcast
Cool.
episode. Charles, feel free to this whole comment, actually, if you could message me that. If you're or
Well,
Cam,
we have this.
That's true. We have a recording
Anyway,
of the
so
chat.
money is the root of all evil.
Okay. So I'm just going to kind of run through these because we've got to get through this really quickly.
Yeah, very nice. All right, we're going to unpack.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it doesn't have to be because of religion. It can very much be comments your parents have made about, oh, so-and-so got a house.
Yeah.
Again, we are so grateful for our house, right? Like,
gee, that sounds familiar.
Yeah. So here are some other ones that might be influencing the energy around money. Your heart is deceitfully wicked.
Above all things. Who can know it? Tell me if that one sounds familiar.
You can't serve religion and money.
You know, when you said that last night, I didn't know what you meant, but I get it now. Yeah.
This one.
If you feel good
don't
about
trust
money,
that.
you must love money as God. Ooh, yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Charles, I wrote this one last night because I was like, oh, this is another one. And now I know why. So here's the other one. Here's another one. Servant's heart and putting everyone else before you. Having a hard time charging what the transformation is worth, because we have this whole this culture of if you really wanted to help people,
you do it for free.
Yeah.
Who here has ever found themselves questioning the value of what you're offering?
Yeah.
Yes. 100%. Totally been through that whole process. And part of what we're going to walk you guys through is that whole spectrum, touching on pieces of it, because there is another side, right? There's the side of like, oh man, is this worth it? And then there's another side where you are so deeply in the value of what you're doing, you're so confident in it, that it's not even a question. It's not even something that really shows up for you anymore. It does occasionally, and you're like, huh, that's funny.
Yeah, the pattern will loop around.
Totally. And that is really important for selling higher ticket items, $5, $10, $25, $50,000 packages, is being so convinced and so convicted of the value of what you're offering that there is no question about it.
Yeah, totally. So one thing is like, yes, we are talking about money. And there are so many different beliefs. We want to make sure, just for those that have been commenting in chat, thank you so much. This is so helpful to us as much as it's helpful to you guys. This is not a masterclass about shaming you about your money beliefs or lack thereof if you find yourself on the other side of the spectrum.
Oof.
It's about you from within becoming empowered and having a refreshing view of money, yes, but most importantly, a empowering and refreshing look on yourself.
Yeah.
And once you have a reconciling with yourself, this image that kind of suddenly comes up, like when we talk about money, that you have, so like this image that you have for yourself about what it means to have a lot of money. So we're going to talk about that piece too, with reconciling and what that even means and what that looks like. And obviously there is the extreme, like Cam was saying, that like when you do this work, you make a lot of money.
Yeah.
And for me, on my side of it with resonance, is I've actually found that I had a client, Jess, where she went from 0 to 30K, not because we made massive tweaks in her business. Well, I did help with offer and stuff, but like not in the way you think, but because of the way she was being with herself and because of what success, money, yourself, your definitions of who is that person who makes a lot of money.
Yeah.
So she was able to go from, I don't think I'm meant to be an entrepreneur, to reconciling her relationship with her daughter.
Yep.
Which catapulted her into success.
Yeah.
We have another client who, in her personal life, her life was falling apart. And there were so many pieces happening. And with COVID and everything, her business was kind of being threatened.
Yeah.
But not because of COVID. You can easily blame problems on things that is a convenient.
Yeah.
That seems to be the convenient answer to the problem.
Also relevant because she was in a business that was shut down by COVID. Like the industry was closed because of COVID. So it was a big deal for her niche that this was happening. Go ahead.
Yeah. So it can very commonly feel like, oh, this is the issue. And now, granted, there might be some evidence of an issue within that, but that's not the issue.
Yeah.
So before we even kind of begin, if like this is kind of something that's really tugging on your heart and your being, just let us know in the chat. But we're going to keep continuing.
Yeah.
Because just wanted to kind of emphasize that, yes, there's the business side where we are what we're talking about today and in the future is elements of how you can shift in your business.
Yeah.
And also there is the work on the spiritual side.
Yeah. So, and they're always connected. And so what we're going to go into is we're going to break the money conversation into 3 very specific areas. We're going to talk about the spiritual side, the mental side, and then like the practical, actionable action step side of things. And this is really important because if you are at a place where you feel that your revenue is plateaued or you're looking for that next level, going from solopreneur to like having a team, any transition point in your business, like you can only grow to the level, your business cannot outgrow you. And if it does, it's often worse than when you outgrow your business, because there has to be a way of receiving. And we're going to talk about that in a second. But just as a quick anecdote for us personally, one of the things that had to work through, I remember very specifically having a conversation with my sales coach, and we just were talking about money beliefs and all the money beliefs that I got from church and all of these things. And like that conversation shifted enough that over the next 30 days, less than that technically, Like we closed for our business over $126,000 in business contracts, not cash collected. There is a difference, but that's really important because like it was all right there. It was all right there, but it wasn't I was not available to it until there was a shifting in my belief system and an opening in my spirit, really. So we're going to kind of transition this into like the spiritual side of money. And this is where like the Bible does talk a lot about money. Like Jesus talked about money, and it's like a big theme. So what do we do with this? Well, Carla's going to kind of lead off on this kind of section about like, let's just start with this. What is money? We want to make more of it, but what is it? In the comments, in the chat, let us know. Define money. An energetic exchange of value. Ooh, that's sexy. I like that.
I like that. By the way, no wrong answers.
No wrong answers.
Because this is about you and helping you grow and make more money. So this is kind of one of those things where it can sometimes feel like a slippery fish to like
Slippery
define.
fish.
Yeah.
Just keeps going.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a fish. You know,
Right.
like an eel. Anyway.
Have you ever tried to catch a fish?
No.
Okay. That makes more sense.
Maybe like a goldfish, like a tiny little.
You would, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Every time I would go fishing, I'd go fishing with somebody and they would be like, man, normally this is a great place to go fishing, but today they're just not biting. So I took the hint and I just haven't been fishing since. Even though I'm the son of my grandpa was a fisherman. Way off track. Take us back. Man.
Yes. Okay.
Yep.
So conduit's tool to exchange value.
Potential energy and physics. Ooh. Interesting, Daniel.
Potential energy. Ooh, I like that specification.
Yeah.
Potential energy.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah. So that is so thank you for letting us know a little bit about your view on money and what money means. And now what I want you to think about, and I actually want you to take a little bit of time. I will be monitoring the time just to make sure, because I know I want to get into the nitty gritty.
We're in the nitty gritty, but yeah,
that's true.
The nitty or grittier.
Yeah. What I want you to think about is, who do you think about in relation to a lot of money? Who is the person that comes up?
First name / face that you see when that question goes. I already know, obviously. Yeah, I have a number of people who pop up.
So yeah, what's yours?
Well, I mean, for me, when I think of like the person who has a lot of money, like there's a handful of images that pop through my mind first. And like the first would be like the person in my church that I knew as a kid who made the most money, and the kind of like that social group in church. And then now I think about, and for me, like my background is in politics, so I tend to think of like political people.
Mm-hmm.
So like I kind of like my next thought is like Biden, basically. That's the second thought that shows up, which is interesting.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Because he's not necessarily like a symbol of wealth, but
right.
Yeah, I think about like political figures that I've met.
Yeah.
Who have a lot of money and power. That's probably why I think about it.
Yeah, that's a key thing to remember is the power piece. So going a level deeper in your life, in your childhood, or someone that is like connected to, it could actually be an experience when you were in college or high school, whatever it is, someone who had an impact in your life that you think of when you think of money in a negative light. Or if you don't believe in the positive negative, money in a heavy sense.
Yeah. The the phrase that immediately comes up is like, yeah, like those rich, insert expletive of some kind, those rich people at like the club, at like the country club. Like we went to this wealthy country club, dudes. Yeah. See?
Yeah.
We went when we were in
literally
totally
same.
Yeah. When we were in Maui, the people who were facilitating the retreat, this was a couple years ago, they took us they took the group to lunch at the Four Seasons in Maui, which is like on the edge of the water. It's absolutely beautiful. And the whole idea was to prompt thinking and reaction around being around a lot of people who had a lot of money and were like staying at the Four Seasons was normal for them. And which is like, I don't know, $1,000 a night or something. That actually sounds cheap.
I was gonna say it's probably more than that.
Probably
But
more
the
than
point is like seeing those that had money that just like walked and talked and how they associated. But then there was also the families where you knew they like pooled all their resources to have this crazy experience, and all over, like in a variety. Okay, I just want to monitor the chat really quick.
Thinking about like figures that come up when we think about money. Yeah, because there's also there's kind of the positive association of like, oh, this person has a lot of money and they have a lot of influence and they're doing amazing things. And then there's a person of like, this person also has a lot of money and they're kind of the exact opposite of what I want to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they're associated.
Yeah. So if you're thinking, oh, great, she's going to talk about like, okay, who's your money idol or money like inspiration, whatever, like,
not really
just like everyone else. It's not how we do things. And also my brain works in the opposite order, because what is like, there's nothing more motivating than pain.
Pain, yes.
And so when we are in a season of pain, whether it's it feels like you're down and out financially with the business or in life, or you're at the top and you're like, I feel like crap, or you're in that obnoxious, like can't break through a certain threshold monetarily wise, right? Like there are different seasons, but what I want to invite you into, because we don't have enough time to go deep into this work to like actually somatically release what is stuck in your body and actually process through. However, the invitation is for you to explore this in after this masterclass about the fact of why haven't you achieved insert
the number,
the success.
Yeah.
And rather than thinking about nitpicking you and your decisions and your life and your business, don't nitpick, for 1 minute, humor me, don't nitpick anything that is connected to you. And instead, I want you to actually look at that person, the people in your life, all of those ideas about money. Because not only are we wanting to run from, sometimes we want to run from something, and sometimes we want to run to something, and sometimes we're in the middle, totally immobilized and terrified that you're going to make the same mistake as XYZ, as this person or that person. Or you're striving so hard to embody the qualities and characteristics of the person you want to be.
Yeah.
Oprah.
Yeah.
Tony
but in
Robbins.
This way that is like trying to not be something else. Like I want to be this thing because I don't want to be that. And that can actually work in the reverse, where the more you try and prove to yourself that you are not that thing, you actually just create this reinforcing loop where like that thing starts to look a lot more like you.
Exactly. Two sides of the same coin. You're so right, Jordan, because the whole thing about this is if you're wondering, like, is that it? No, just needed to clarify that. When you put all of your focus into not being somebody or trying to be trying to embody somebody or whatever it is, your focus is money as an obstacle or yourself as an obstacle. I want you to kind of pause and think about that. Because both sides of what we just talked about is the subconscious or very conscious verbal way of you saying that you are not enough. That there is something inherently messed up within yourself. And if this isn't quite connecting with you, that's okay.
Mhm.
Just know that we are here and we see each and every one of you. Because when you focus on the obstacle or the problem or nitpicking all the different things in the business, when you are in it, you view everything on the same plane. Follow me here. Like we said, it's the spiritual side, the resonance that makes the revenue. So on the spiritual side, right? So kind of feel into this. When you are in it, I want you to picture like you are working on this big, mysterious, giant, like walking up a hill, or just like picture something that's like really difficult. And you might even heard this part, but I'm still going to mention it just in case. And it might be a reminder that what actually works is not trying to make sure you aren't repeating the same mistakes and patterns of the people that you don't want to emulate, or on the other side of that coin, running towards or trying to embody the qualities of someone who has already been successful. What actually works is when you truly dive deeper into your own personal resonance, into your own true identity, and understand that within yourself, your authority. So it's like who you are, your own authority, both innate and in life. Kim has this whole process that like was super impactful to me and like really showed me that I was indeed on the side of, I was like, no, I'm good with money. It's just an energetic exchange, like transformation in the transaction, like repeating all of the what I had heard, cliches, but also like helped me at some point, helped transform my belief around money in different ways. So this is the next part of it, is understanding that the complexities of it is from the unknown. So it sounds simple, but the complexities are in the unknown. So part of understanding this, and for both of us, understanding that when you are in that unknown place where it's like ceiling can't quite break the ceiling, or wherever you're at yourself, that is, I wasn't going to talk about much about what we do, but really quickly, like that is part of what we do in our program that we actually combined together after I came back from maternity leave, was the birth of the Fireproof Entrepreneur. And that program combines Cam's brilliant.
Back from maternity leave, we gave birth to the fire. Very nice.
That was both unintentional and intentional, because I do feel like it was a rebirth.
Yeah.
And that we created something different, because when you're just like ready to go, if you're like, yes, I just like want to see what this looks like, if this is tapping in to something, just message Cam, and just so that we don't miss anybody. But
yeah, if you already know you want to have a conversation, then just shoot me a message.
Yeah, totally. So I realize we need to go a little faster.
I need to make a distinction. It's driving me nuts that we haven't made it. So there are three big pieces that we kind of talked about: spiritual, mental, and actionable. So like what Carla was just talking about with the money associations that you have, and thus the beliefs that you form from childhood figures or figures out there, those are all mental models. Those are all money beliefs. And that whole thing that she just talked about of like, are you resisting money? Or are you resisting yourself? And realizing that like there's patterns that you have around money. That's all the mental stuff. The spiritual side of things is underneath those layers. And oftentimes we do money mindset work and we work on our money beliefs, and we go through a process like we just did of like, hey, who was considered rich in your childhood? Like, well, let's look at that, deconstruct it. What does that actually mean? What associations did you have about that person? Did you like them? Did you not like them? What does being rich mean? What does having money mean? Those are all the money beliefs. But underneath that, and much deeper, there's an emotional and spiritual component to it. And we kind of framed this by saying like money is an energetic exchange of value, which means, and this is a number one principle, one of the most important principles of making a lot of money, that will not be addressed by your money beliefs and will not be addressed by the practical strategies. What is it, babe? Do you know? You know what it is. You know what it is, but I want to say it.
I was going to say, I'm not answering. You want to say
Yeah,
it.
no, I want to say it. It is receiving. Because if you picture your whole being as like a cup, right? And it gets poured into and then it pours out, like there has to be room. So when we had our first $60,000 month, there was a lot of work on the personal, energetic, and emotional side and spiritual side to make room, because there was so much bitterness. At least for me, there was bitterness that I hadn't achieved it before. There was anger at God. There was a lack of forgiveness for myself and others. There was a lot of things that were holding a lot of energy. And as those things came off, it was like weights coming off of me, so that there was an ability not to like receive and hold that money, but to receive and be able to circulate it properly. Because money is not meant to just, if you just have money pouring in, you just have energy pouring in, it's like a pond that is getting poured into, but it's not pouring out. So to use a biblical analogy, right, we've got the Dead Sea, which I don't know if you've ever been, but the Dead Sea is amazing. It's like,
it is pretty
super
fabulous.
salty. The reason it's the Dead Sea is because there's only one river flowing in and there's nothing flowing out. So there's a relationship there that as God is like pouring, allowing the abundance to come into your life, and you are allowing him to pour into your life. This is not just about money.
Yeah.
It is about
and to Jordan's point, meant to be circulated, not accumulated. Exactly. What happens when you think, okay, I'm like, if we were to use this cup analogy, that means that you can, if you aren't careful, if you don't have everything right, and if you don't have all of your ducks in a row, then you could find yourself on the side of, oh crap, I'm empty. And so, yeah. And so when you are in that state, that's what Cam was saying, when it becomes the Dead Sea, where you make money or you're struggling to make money, but the belief within it is, when you relate to yourself as someone that, as the cup analogy, then it will become the Dead Sea, that now you have to walk about a mile just to get to the water part.
Yeah, that's from where the edge used to be.
From where the edge used to be. I forgot the stats, but that's kind of irrelevant, just a fun little fact. But knowing that, then there's also on the spiritual side, understanding that you are endless, limitless, and all the things. And if you come from a religious background, it can feel a little, ooh, I think that like that might be a little bit more like money as an idol, thinking that it's all like, there are different things that come in with the imagery in which we associate ourselves with. If we were to really actually, what is part of the key, make a lot of money masterclass, like what this is coming down to is who you believe yourself to be, your identity, who you are, and also how do you relate to yourself. And also, what is the reason why you're striving to make more money? Not in the religious weird sense of like, why the heck do you want money? No.
Question. Like, do you mean like striving or like desiring?
Yes.
Okay. What does that mean?
So
Yeah, my notepad here.
when you feel like you have to chase money, aka desiring the money, or sorry, opposite, striving for. If you feel like you have to chase money or strive for it or work hard for it, there are elements, well, yeah, it is a lot of work. I'm not pretending it isn't, but sometimes it isn't. Sometimes money just freaking shows up because it was always there to begin with.
Yeah.
It is not something that kind of comes into you and just passes through you and doesn't transform you, because that's the thing with an energetic exchange of money. The transformation is not one-sided.
Oh, juicy. You know, people say the transformations in the transaction, like it's so much more than, like, that phrase actually holds a lot of truth, because like, let's say you're selling a $60,000 program, and maybe you've never sold a $60,000 program. We do that all the time, and not all the time, but we do that. And there's two transformations. There's the transformation of what it means to you when you sold your first $60,000 package and realizing that, like, yeah, it is worth that. And there's a transformational aspect there, and this transformational aspect for that person who's committing to themselves at that level. And that's often why people don't get the transformation that they're signing up for, is because, like, and it's funny because it kind of flows into the action steps piece, because we're kind of talking about pricing. Like, how do you price your offers? You price your offers in a way that actually moves people further into the transformation, not farther from it. And you can actually, some of the greatest disservice that you can do, not all the time, but sometimes you can do your audience a disservice by taking something that is a $25,000 offer and selling it for $2, or selling it for 10, and selling it for a level that the person who's like, man, I've got this big problem. I've got a big problem. My marketing doesn't work at all. I'm not making money. I am hustling because I have to do one-on-one networking and sales to bring the revenue into the business. My marketing doesn't work at all. That's a big problem, or it can be a big problem. And for me to say, like, oh yeah, it's just going to be like, a couple calls, you know, $500. There's a mismatch between the level of the problem and the level of commitment that is needed, because what's actually necessary for somebody to make the transformation that you provide, what's actually necessary is for them to be as committed to themselves as you are to them. If you are more committed to their transformational result than they are committed, it is not going to work.
And here's a big distinction that came up for me that I want to make sure is understood. For them, obviously, there's transformation and transaction. Everything Cam was saying is so, like, it is so gold. And something that I want to make sure is, yes, we were referencing money, but a lot of times when we think of money in terms of a value, how much is this worth? How much should I charge? How much about this, whatever it is, or you're perfectly fine where you're at. But each time it's you understanding that people cannot commit to themselves and the transformation, cannot receive that transformation and complete the transaction.
Yeah.
When you are at a place where you aren't embodying that next level of your innate, bountiful worth, true love. And obviously there's lots of sneaky, but not that can money beliefs and all the things that is in this. But I guess the point is, it's not about the money. It is about the perception of value, not just for someone who's coming and wants your service, but the perception of value within yourself.
Totally.
And there is an level in which you may be comfortable.
Yeah.
And once again, comfortable is stagnation. And not saying that you're meant to always be uncomfortable. I'm not saying that at all. However, when we are like, yeah, I'm making money, I don't have money issues because, I'm making money. What we really care about is, okay, great. If that's where you want to stay, that is totally fine. In fact, well done. More power to you because you have chosen. That is incredible. Heck, deciding is half the battle. So if that's what you've chosen, beautiful, wonderful. But ultimately, what money kind of brings up in us, both mentally, in our bodies, somatically, and our spiritual connection, all throughout all of that, is this internal work. Is this looking at and not just fixing business problems, but finding the root of where it actually came from in a way that is not heavy, but is releasing and is this so satisfying, to be honest, where that's like the mindset and the mental and the performance piece, all the things is like so helpful and really great tools, but ultimately yourself. And I feel like I'm getting a little bit too much into some of these pieces, but that is okay. You're getting a little taste.
Appetizer.
Yeah, a little appetizer. Yeah. Because what we want to do is, regardless of where you're at financially, regardless on if you are happy with where you're at or not, that part is irrelevant, because it is about receiving, giving and receiving, and the energetic exchange of that. And when you're in a place that feels damn good, and when you are firmly rooted or seated, firmly rooted and seated into yourself and your impact, and actually embodying, not pretending. Like, I'm not talking about visualizing yourself as Oprah, or visualizing yourself as Tony Robbins, or visualizing yourself.
You don't want to be the next Tony Robbins. You want to be the first you.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And so we're going to kind of, I know that was
let's check in with you guys. Like, is this landing? Does this make sense? Do you have questions? Just put in the chat, like, yes, this makes sense, or I have a question, here's what it is, or that went totally over my head, I have no idea what you're talking about, or oh my gosh, I'm loving this.
Or also
some feedback here.
I want to know,
makes sense,
like, if this feels like information that you've already had, one invitation to access that information again.
Yeah. What's a takeaway from this segment as we transition into this last piece, where we're going to kind of take these ideas and these concepts and kind of ground it into like the real world, the 3D world of implementation, how you do this?
Yeah, not just the theory and the mental and spiritual
mental stuff can kind of feel like, okay, these concepts, like, I can see that there's some perspective shifts happening, but how does this actually like live in my business? How does this affect my copy, my content, my marketing, my sales, all those things? Yeah. So give us a takeaway that you might have gotten from this last segment, or a takeaway up to this point as we transition into the implementation. And since I'm going to be doing a lot more of this section, I'm going to get some water.
Perfect.
I'm out.
Yeah. Okay, so Charles, I'll just read these out so that you could hear them. Charles said, I have the information, but I haven't understood how to find the root blocking the identity shift. It's tough, especially since porn recovery coaching is so personal for me. Yeah, absolutely. It is deeply connected to your heart. And so that everything we just spoke about, Charles, is kind of for heart-centered entrepreneurs, those that have, I think that everyone has the capacity to be heart-centered, but especially for those that already see themselves in that.
Man.
That is so, thank you, Charles. Okay. Realize there's another one. Realizing again how much I push money away because I perceived money as making people superficial and creating fake lives.
Wow.
Ooh. I value authenticity deeply, so money has felt like a threat to something I care deeply about.
Oh man, that
Ooh.
was so good. That feels really true for me.
Thank you, Jordan,
Ooh.
for opening and allowing yourself to look at the whole thing again.
Man, this is perfect. What a great segue.
Yeah.
That is a great, so we're going to use that as a springboard, actually. So thank you for that, Jordan.
And Charles.
And Charles, yeah.
And if I missed anyone else, just put it in the chat again if I missed it.
So when we're talking about how we transition some of these ideas, like Jordan brought up a really, really important thing, which is like this idea of kind of fakeness versus authenticity. So I'm pretty sure that if you're here and you're listening to us, then you want a business that feels more authentic and meaningful, and you want your content and your marketing to reflect that.
And you want to feel good while doing it and not feel and not insert.
Yes.
Right.
We believe that the best business you can build is the one that is going to be most aligned and connected to your purpose, which is why like the spiritual component is so important for us, because like I truly believe that God has given each of us an individual unique calling, and that you can't have a calling without a caller. And so that implies that there is a relationship that exists. You can either be distant in that relationship by your own choice, but he is always calling you closer, or you can be close and experience the intimacy that comes with the Father. That can live inside of your business. And I believe that it actually is the fullest and purest expression of your business when you can do that. So what does that mean when we start plugging this into individual concepts? How do you become deeply resonant and authentic in your marketing? Give me your best guess in the chat. What do you think is required for you to be deeply meaningful and access that authenticity in your business? What is it going to require from you to create a business that feels fully in alignment? What does that look like for you? I guess that's part of it. Like, what does it look like? Jordan says, like, not yucky or pushy or cringy. All such good.
Those are good. Like
crinkly words.
Crinkly. I like it.
Oh, crunchy words. They're crunchy words.
No, crunchy is a different.
Crinkly. They are crinkly words. Yeah. Carla and I have this thing about like different words have different feelings and shapes, and it's the whole thing. Because she sees things visually, I see them like I interpret words, and I get feelings from words. Carla gets feelings, and then I turn them into words. That's the whole thing. Anyway, so as we're kind of looking at this concept,
Remind
of
me
like
of the question.
Yeah, the question is like, what is it going to take from you? What do you think is required of you? Maybe not take from you. What do you think is required of you to actually build a business that's fully in alignment, that feels fully authentic, and that feels meaningful? Being open and vulnerable about my own experiences, story, etc. Vulnerability, except I energetically identify with frustration and anger in my vulnerability. I feel it and see it, but don't know how to get out of it. Oh. Yes.
Hey, Charles. Yeah, these are good.
Oh,
This
so
tells us so
good.
much. Charles,
So good.
I want to invite you to go a level deeper, because there also sounds like you have a certain association with the word vulnerability.
Yeah,
as well.
totally.
And
that is so good. This is such a good transition here, because like the idea of vulnerability, like we interpret as weakness, and there's a reason for that, because if you are vulnerable, it means that you are open to attack. But if you are interpreting that vulnerability means that I am open to attack, it means you are anticipating attack. You are anticipating, like I have some friends who are always talking about like, prove the haters wrong. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I just got my first hater yesterday from an email that I sent out. And I was like, this is kind of cool. I've never had this experience of like somebody being like, screw you, from my content. And if we're going, so there's some agreement here, and like this has been popularized. Sorry. This has been popularized a lot by Brene Brown, talking about vulnerability and leadership and how you build company culture and all that in the past few years. So vulnerability is this thing. We're like, oh yeah, we're supposed to do this, sharing our experiences. Well, I'm going to give you 3 frameworks here.
Because
1 framework with 3 parts, actually.
yeah, because like we've all like money follows trust.
Yes.
And a lot of people are like, okay, I need to create trust. I need to craft it. Sorry, wrong word.
I need to build it.
Build it, craft trust.
Design it. The slippery slope of vulnerability is that it's been used as a manipulation tactic. Totally.
Yeah. A mentor of mine, which I'm realizing, did you create this phrase?
Maybe.
It might have been a phrase from Cam, or it might have been from a mentor. I don't remember. But there is the only difference.
Yep.
Between,
the only difference between influence and manipulation is intention. Truly, at the end of it. That's the only difference. It is the same skill set. And by the way, you guys, I learned the skill set and the toolkit of influence and persuasion in the world of politics. And I did not,
speaking of sleazy.
Yeah, I did not learn it from like a place of like vulnerability and connection. I learned the dark arts of persuasion. I learned how to manipulate. The conversations that we would have were, how close can we get to the line of like truth versus lie? Can we technically say this and be able to defend it some way? That was how we approached our marketing for our candidate, or the issue was like, how close can I get to the line of like, is that actually true? Or are you just like spinning it so much? So like, that's where
words are weapons that can hurt people. So of course you're in the business of words, but also that also means that like, if that's your association with words in your past, then that also means that if you don't have the perfect words, you just said the dark arts. Yeah. So like, you could be a force of great evil.
Yeah. And actually,
however,
we had that conversation like a month ago.
Pause.
Yep. Sorry.
I'm going to challenge you, just like everyone else listening, to kind of take note of like, oh yeah, that could be true, or oh yeah, that's happened. Like, fun fact, when someone responds immediately after you speak, especially after they have they have said something that can be touched on a lot of painful points, they can keep talking and not let it land. And that's totally fine. But in the all sense of transparency, go to call Cam out.
Yep.
Because Cam was having a little bit of oh my gosh, we're talking about a money masterclass and things have been a little shaky this month. And I'm like, that's not the point of this masterclass. But, we all do it. We all create these scenarios in which we believe that we could unintentionally hurt people.
Yeah.
Because it's this idea of, if I believe that people intentionally hurt people, then that goes down a path that's too dark. And so a lot of times, especially as little children, not understanding why people in authority and people that were adults hurt us, and it wasn't explained, and you may not have done the work to somatically release that and do the work to not just therapy, but like in everything release, then it's going to be a repeating pattern. And especially because, one of my friends called it the coaching Me Too movement.
Yeah.
Of this, the two sides of everything. And so when you are constantly checking in with making sure that you are good, making sure that you aren't manipulating, making sure all of these things, but haven't defined what your work is, but haven't connected deeply to what you truly do, when you haven't taken the time to actually see yourself as an authority, or actually take the time to really see yourself in authority.
Okay. Yep.
When you are able to actually see yourself from the vantage point of helper and healer versus manipulator.
Yeah.
And other words that we associate with the coaching world and so many other people.
Yeah.
That is part of the key with all of this, of like, what do I do next to make more money?
Yeah. Well, it seems to me that that's also very much connected. The idea of being vulnerable is very much connected to the idea of questioning your authority, questioning your value, questioning the value that you provide. And that's kind of like that's the framework here. So the principles, when we start translating this into marketing, like, I think a lot of us need to just get rid of the word marketing because it has an association when really,
well, not get rid of the word, but like
readjust how you look at it.
Create a different word to invoke the feeling you want people to feel when you're marketing.
Yes.
So part of the reason why we said make a lot of money in Masterclass was because we deeply want people, like it's part of our mission to love people the way that Jesus intends. And God is a God full of abundance and love.
Yeah.
And that is part of our mission, is to help people make a lot of money, because we are not under any type of rose-colored glasses, in the sense of it takes money to be in this world, right?
Yeah.
However, you can be in this world and money is kind of like a footnote, or it could be the thing, or wherever the status of money is, that part is only a section. And if you find yourself coming back to the same thing month after month, then perhaps it's time to actually have a business that is following the key stories that connect yourself and your audience together in a way that is authentic. Yeah. In a way that is vulnerable, but not at the cost of you. No. This is not journal entry. We're not going live and just sharing whatever. Yeah. Now, if you feel inspired to go live, I do that a lot. I'm not saying that. Yeah. But like an actual launch sequence, an actual sequence of events.
Like the healing pieces that we've been talking about, of like re-understanding your relationship to money and yourself. Like, and by the way, the reason that Carla knows that, like, just going live and just pouring your guts out and just kind of like emotionally vomiting on social media, the reason we know that that doesn't work is because we both did that for a long time. We were, I don't know, for lack of a better term, experimenting with that.
Well, I would find myself going live or writing where I was like, this isn't it. This isn't the deep transformational. It's not my heart. Yeah. My heart is not being shown. Yeah. Like what I really am here for is not coming through.
Why that is so important. So I want to give you guys a concept, 3 concepts. So there's this methodology that we have called the story economy. If you don't have the guide on how the story economy works, shoot me a message on Messenger.
And we'll give it to you guys for free. Yeah.
Might have gotten it in your emails already. But this is essentially, after helping a lot of people, at the time I wrote this, it was like 10 million in revenue that came from my time specifically as like a copywriter, writing launches and funnels for influencers. And
a copy coach.
Yeah, and as a copy coach. And so I kind of distilled those principles into 7 different stories. And these different stories are essentially launched for how you actually launch. I don't have time to walk you through all of them today, but I'm going to kind of condense it into, there's basically 3 different areas that are important for you to understand. And we've actually been talking about them this whole time, but I'm just going to label them for you. So we've been talking about the importance of vulnerability. Well, there's a whole section of stories that are connection stories. We call one the personal why story. Why does the business mission matter to you personally? Because the reality is all of the stuff that Carl has been talking about the beliefs that you formed when you were a child and all the things that you got from the church and how the entirety of your being influences the decisions that you make. Your greatest and most resonant message is hiding deep in the layers of those things.
Yeah.
Sometimes what people think is that, oh man, I have to stop everything and go and heal and get to the bottom of the swamp to find like the gold, and then I can like return to my business and make money. And we've done that too. Not very effective. So what we actually do now is we work you through a process where you can actually heal through the process of marketing your business and receiving money, because you don't have to stop everything to receive more money. So if we're looking at your personal why story, that story is the story of why you care. It's not just important for them, it's important for you. It's important for you to understand, why do I care about this work? For me, the whole idea of the recovering Christian entrepreneur, the whole idea of the Make a Lot of Money Masterclass, the whole idea comes down to the fact that growing up, being in a very religious environment, knowing about Jesus, but not really knowing Jesus, I felt very constricted in who I was allowed to be. And so now the work that I do is helping entrepreneurs release the shame, the guilt, the obligation of my business has to look like this, just like the good, perfect Christian has to look like this. And all of the just garbage that caused in my life and in my business, to the point where it's just like, now, let it go, because God is such an all-consuming, like unbelievable power and fire of love. All of it. God never enters in with a punishing attitude. Never. Even if you look at the illustrations in the Old Testament, people are like, oh, what about Sodom and Gomorrah? What about Egypt? God is always responding to the cry of the oppressed. Always. He's never coming in punitively. He is never coming in with punishment. He's never coming in to like smash you, ever. Never in the Bible. That comes from Greek mythology. That comes from the pagan gods. It comes from something that is not Jesus. That's important to know. Because so much of this conversation about receiving money is about, do I actually believe that God loves me? Now, that doesn't mean that like, I'm going to have a lot of money and therefore I will know that God loves me. That's not what that's about. That's not what that's about at all. It's like, do you understand that God is such a God of love and abundance that you can be secure in his love and receive as much money as is available, trusting that there is a purpose for every dollar? Every dollar and every cent has a mission. And are you going to be the kind of person that can open up and receive that and steward that mission in a way that is going to deeply impact the lives of everyone around you? And that also does not mean receiving and pouring out to the point where you have nothing left again, because that's not useful either. Like, you get to be in a place of abundance. You get to pay your bills. You get to like actually have a life that is abundant. Because there's a certain thing, once you've had a $60,000 cash collected month, something shifts. And you realize that the things that you thought money could get you don't actually get you. It's that old cliche, money doesn't buy happiness, but it's so true. And this, my friends, circling all back way to the spiritual side of things, this is what Jesus is actually talking about when he says you cannot serve God and mammon. Whole lot of context there. But essentially what he's talking about is that money comes with it the perception of power. And when you operate in an economic system that doesn't care that people are sacrificed for the pursuit of pleasure and entertainment and the status quo, you're in the wrong system. And that system is symbolized by the almighty dollar. But the beautiful thing about Jesus is that he doesn't care about the thing. Doesn't care about the thing. He cares about your heart and your intention and what your relationship with is it. If you are approaching money from a place of anxiety and fear and like, oh my gosh, like God's going to hate me if I make money, well, then he's not going to give you money because he loves you, and he's not going to put you into such a place of tremendous conflict that you feel like you're being torn apart.
That was some freaking gold right there.
That was some gold. He loves you enough to allow you to work through the process of healing before he like drops a ton of money into you and just like, yeah, you're in the pocket, Charles.
Yeah. So also I feel this so much is like, I also am always checking in, making sure that like I am constantly in the forward motion of healing for myself and others. That when I feel like things are kind of crazy, whether they are or not is irrelevant, but like when I am like scared that I'm or worried or stressed out that I'm not going to be able to be everything that I view myself to be because I've done the work to understand that,
Yeah.
I can become immobilized.
Who can relate?
And the irony is, it's because I've shifted from who I am, why I'm on this earth, the people who are calling me, and so much more. There's so much more on that side. And instead, I am focusing my energy on trying to prevent something that is a stalemate. And you can ruminate in that, you can stay in that, you can make a lot of money even in that like cycle. But something that we care about is sustainability.
Yeah.
And so for you, Charles, and really an invitation for everyone, is the stuff that's coming, like, I feel like I need to set the masterclass aside for a second.
Ooh.
Whatever you are going through in your business and in personal, whatever it is, Charles, I'm going to speak a little bit more to you because I see your comment, but obviously
this is for everyone.
These are the
conversations we're having behind the scenes with everybody.
Totally. Yeah. Is whenever we are faced with a decision, there's always a cost benefit analysis that we do, whether we are conscious of it or not. So, Charles, underneath what you just said, underneath that, what are you weighing? So we are always trying to deliberate what is the right decision, right? Yeah. And obviously, if you're like me, I want to make the best decision at all times.
And what does God want me to do?
Yeah, and what does God want me to do, and all the things. And here's something that's just kind of coming out. Thank you, Jordan. Talk soon. Yes, please message us. You are so welcome. Yeah. And then also let us know so we can get you the guide and the prompts, because there's some other stuff at the end, but thank you for coming.
Beautiful.
So with all of that, oh, good. You got the guide. Okay, cool. So with all of that, we love you. And Charles, there's where you're at, the already feeling torn apart, the already like doomsday type of thing. It is serving you in some regard because it is trying to tell you something. So underneath it, what is it still serving you? What is it trying to communicate? What is your true desire?
Yeah. And I want to kind of like take some of what Carla's saying and like help us transition a little bit, because there's something here underneath all of these different layers. There is a very primal process that we go through. Like we are mind, body, and spirit. And we've kind of covered like the spiritual side. We've kind of covered like the mental side. We're talking about the practical aspects of how you turn your story into like actual content, which I realize we can't get super nitty gritty in this container at this time, but I do have a template for you guys if you'd like it. But one of the things here is like, if we're mind, body, and spirit, then we have to address this problem on all three levels. And if you're doing a lot of mindset work and you're reading your Bible and you're doing a lot of praying, but things don't feel like they're shifting, then it's that third option, the body. Embodiment. Embodiments. There's a business idea. Weird. So this whole idea of like, how does your body shift? I just want to share a quick testimonial for Carla, because like this morning we were doing some breath work together. She is a breath work
Trauma-informed breathwork
facilitator. And we're doing some things, and I realized for me, I go in and out of like a state of fight or flight, basically. What I realized is that the way that I breathe has been in a way that is telling my body I'm in threat. I am under threat. My body is telling me by the way that I breathe that I'm under attack. Now, you're an entrepreneur and you're trying to get things done. And I've had conversations with some of the people on this call, so I already know the answer to this. But the thing that's happening is like you're stepping forward to do the thing, write the post, make the offer, get on the sales call. And this right here feels like absolute chaos. And it feels like this is warring against this. And you're like, these are the things that I know to do, but this is like, I feel like I'm going crazy. I feel like I need to get out of here. Like my body is telling me this isn't safe. Let's go. And that whole process is happening because there's something off in the alignment of your mind, body, and spirit. Something is going on that makes it difficult. That does not mean you cannot take action. You can take action. And there are times where you just have to allow yourself to take that action. But what we advocate is a process wherein your marketing and your sales process become something that allows you to share the deepest and most powerful parts of your message with your audience so that they say, wow, I need to hop on their masterclass, or I need to get into their Facebook group, or I need to work with them. And allowing that whole process to be something that comes from within you, not something that you're just writing about what you know, because your story is a totality of everything that has gone on in your life. And that means that there is a very physical component because your story lives inside of your body. And your body remembers those moments. It remembers being touched, it remembers the smells, it remembers what you saw. Like those are really important pieces. And sometimes those things can actually get stuck, which is what Carla does in the Fireproof Entrepreneur. So we're at one.
We are totally out of time.
We're like
but
super out of time. However, I wanted to give you guys we're gonna have to do a follow-up training, honestly, on the strategy of how to make money next, like the next piece. Oh yeah, Charles, this is so good. Yeah. I'm not feeling like the template thing is in alignment with how we've talked.
I agree.
So basically, here's the deal, guys. There's a very strategic, very tactical process for like the implementation. If I had to give you one little nugget of something that you can do from this experience, then I would give you a journal prompt and you can craft a post from that journal prompt. In order to sell something, you have to have an audience, someone to talk to, even if it's just one person. You have to have an offer, the thing you're selling, and you have to have a way to communicate the value of that offer. So I give you a prompt. Actually, I feel like you might have a prompt. Do you have a prompt?
Well, let me hear yours first.
So the prompt is, what is one area where I have produced a result that somebody else wants? One area. And then within that area, I want you to identify a story of how you achieved that thing, how you got that thing. Ideally related to your business. If you're in a space where you're not really sure what your business like is, then that's another question.
It's a different issue.
Yeah, like maybe just message me. So
we ran out of time, so I feel like message us and we will record a Loom.
Yep. So if you're here and you already know that you want to have an exploratory conversation with one or both of us about making more money in your business, I realize like we have a whole bunch of stories of clients who've made a lot of money that we haven't really shared.
Yeah.
We're just doing this all wrong. Yeah. anyway,
We joke because it's not right or wrong.
yeah.
But
Anyway, so here, actually, I do think I have a link. I'm hoping this is the right link, you guys. If you want to have a conversation, I will most likely be messaging you if we are connected on message to just kind of like follow up to see how you're doing. And see if this really landed for you and what we can do to make this more powerful. We're going to run this again probably in August, because at this point, the next thing we're doing, y'all, do you have that image? Did you want to share it?
Yes,
So we got some really exciting things coming up. So you can like hit us up at the application, or we can just have a conversation in Messenger. Doesn't really matter.
Yeah. So we understand that there's share screen. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So message us about, we really want to know what came up for you. What are you choosing next? What are you doing to move forward so that we can be informed for what we're doing next, which is our Resonance and Revenue June Challenge. That will be June 19th, 20th, 21st, and 22nd. Right?
Yep.
Okay. These are some other things that we have coming down the pipeline. If you are interested, we are creating a homecoming retreat that will be in Mont Eagle, Tennessee. Oh, yep. I'm so excited.
That, and just to kind of like give some context on all these pieces, the Resonance and Revenue Challenge, this is for screen share is loading. It's not sharing yet. Weird.
Oh, it's not sharing yet. That's weird.
Maybe it is, and it's just telling us lies. The Resonance and Revenue Challenge in June is to kind of take the concept of making a lot of money and go much deeper on it. So we're going to cover the 3 different post types that you need. We're going to cover like how you craft an offer that resonates with people, how you present it in a way that resonates, how you actually attract and close those sales. We're going to go through a lot of the really tangible strategic pieces, as well as a lot of what we talked about today with like the mindset and the mental and spiritual, with the goal of getting through that in 5 days, having everything you need to attract your next client or clients with really resonant, amazing content.
Yeah. So that is also why messaging us is so vital, because just like this masterclass, there's clearly some things that can be tweaked, and we are so grateful because we want to provide more and more value. So for yourself, if this was new information, amazing, dive deeper, journal through, see what comes up. Because whenever we talk about money,
gold.
There's always
gold when we talk about money. That's nice.
And if this was completely like you're thinking, I already knew this information, I want you to invitation to dive deeper. And if you're here with I don't want to be sold. Yeah, I don't either.
Yeah.
I don't want to be sold anything. I want to just know what to do.
Yeah. We'll sell you on yourself, you know? Empowered decision-making ability. Yeah.
So for those that we saw in the chat, thank you so much. This was super helpful. For those that are watching live and on the replay, I am Carla and this is Cam. We are so incredibly grateful. And if you have questions about some of the topics, let us know, and that will also be up on our podcast. So
you got it, Charles.
We appreciate you
Thanks,
all.
Guys, for showing up. See y'all later.
And we'll see you guys later. Bye.